Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live stream of The Voice of the People. I'm Sandra Christensen, running for District 4 State House of Representatives, and this is going to be an amazing discussion today. We are talking water, water in the desert. What is the truth? What is myth? Are we out of water? Are we almost out of water? Do we have an abundance of water? Well, today on my show, I have Mark Burr, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So, welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
And let us tell us about yourself and what you do for a living, and then we'll get right into it.
Sure. Name is Mark Burr, and I'm CEO of a company called Primary Water Technologies, Arizona LLC, and I'm engaged in groundwater exploration globally. So I have operators and partners on 6 continents, done business in 30 states over the last 3 years since I came back and focused on North American markets. And that's why I'm in the world of abundance and not scarcity
Yes.
when it comes to water.
And it also gets back to fear-based versus more problem-solving, wouldn't you say? Because there's a
Absolutely.
lot of fear around this water
I call them
topic.
scaremongers of scarcity.
Okay. Well, let's talk
And
about
that's the
it.
debate,
Yeah.
scarcity versus abundance.
I heard that you had an interesting discussion last night. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, a bit of a group of mama bears who've been fighting the good fights for about, this interesting 10 years now,
Yes.
as we've had an outsider businessman come into this political arena and shake things up. And so they're very active. I've been in and out of Arizona quite a bit. I more in southern Arizona, now live in Scottsdale last 2.5 years, kind of have a foot in Texas. My favorite daughter's there, and I have 3 daughters, 2 sons. So, but but I'm here, and if they're going to drag me into this fight, I'm going to speak my mind, and I did last night.
So there's so much out there that we're running out of water. And I understand when I first got into this race, I was very naive on water. I just assumed, well, we live in a desert and there's a lot of people that live here. So, end of story. It is much more complicated than that. I did speak with somebody, Amanda Moniz, who's on the Central Arizona Project Central Arizona
Yes.
Project. And so she informed me on a lot of things that I had no idea about. But I'm very interested in finding out what pure water is
I
and what you
believe
do.
she ran on the ticket with Lisa Atkins last year. There was 3 sort of red, Republicans running for that commission and 3 Democrats. She might have been on that ticket. Lisa Atkins was running for a second term, and she's on there. She used to be chief of staff for an old, very conservative John Birch
I think
Society
Amanda's been in
Republican.
there 4 years. I think she
She
ran
may also run
she
on
ran the year
second term.
I
Okay,
ran
so she's second
school
termer
board.
maybe as well. Lisa won't return my emails anymore either, so I do ruffle feathers.
Well, tell us why you ruffle feathers and tell us what you think about all of the scare tactics around water in Arizona.
So last night was a town hall held by Mayor Borowski of Scottsdale down in the south part down there at the senior center, and she brought in a Arizona water lawyer out of ASU to basically, as I realized later, to hide behind as her excuse to say there are no options. And therefore, you see, the smart guy says this is why you're going to have double-digit increases in your water bills, and you need to put rocks in your front yard, and you need to drink your toilet water in many and
Toilet to
more
tap.
toilet to tap in
Mhm.
many new ways.
Okay.
So I listened to the presentation in his slideshow for about 3/4 of the way through, and I couldn't take it anymore because he got to an option slide, and he had obviously included groundwater percentages, and of course, like most people, only talks about one straw called the Colorado River.
Yes. So tell us the difference between the groundwater and the different levels, because what you do is very different from just that very top level of
Right.
water, right? It's deep,
Not
right?
necessarily deep.
It's
Springs come
not.
up, they know have not touched the atmosphere,
Okay.
geochemistry, so where did that water originate that reached finally to the surface? Some of those springs have been for thousands of years, are
Mhm.
protected, believed to have healing properties. Where
Natural
there's a natural spring
aquifers.
that's good,
Uh-huh.
our tribal, folks
Yes.
protect them, we protect them, ranchers protect them, and we know in most cases, this has not ever touched the atmospheric water of our typical
So that's why
hydrological cycle.
it's
So where
pure.
is it coming from?
Yeah.
The earth creates water. It creates it by combining hydrogen and oxygen under the electromechanical forces of our earth to create water in actually three phases. A lot of it's steam. It's kind of hot way down
Mhm.
there, right? They tell us.
That's the
But what
vapor
happens to
phase.
steam as it rises and cools? It condensates.
Right.
That's recharge from below. I cornered the state hydrologist of Nevada, undergraduate geophysics, graduate geology, 20 years, good guy, but a bureaucrat at the end of the day. And I cornered him and I finally said, so Noah or Aaron, on all of your studies, of all the money have you spent, have you ever tried to calculate recharge from below? He winced 3 seconds.
Tell us what that is.
No, he said no. And that was it. He didn't know. Beyond that, the question became, look, I'm executive branch. Go to you find your champion in the legislature.
Mhm.
That's where the money comes from. They tell their people over here, I get a project, I'll go do it. Yours sounds neat, but I'm just a little guy here. The chief hydrologist of Nevada, right?
Right.
That's how the politics of water works, if you're going to dive into and try to change things. So last night, I stood up and said, this is nonsense. You're saying there's no options. And I quoted Andy Biggs.
Okay, let's hear it.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
This is what he said. He came out in the first 2 interviews of this year, and now this is an
And
election
tell our
year.
viewers who Andy Biggs is, because some people are not politically savvy. We have people on TikTok listening
Okay.
in. So
Representative Andy Biggs
Yes.
is a congressman from, I believe, sort of the south area of Maricopa County, south side of Phoenix, has been in Washington a number of years. And so he is now running for governor of Arizona, Republican Party. He's clearly going to win. He's way ahead of
in the polls,
Taylor Robeson dropped out. We
he's the
have
front runner.
Schweikert, who is clearly Rhino, Republican light, and he is the lead in the polls. So we desperately pray he wins the primary and the governorship, as we need drastic change in the state, from the veto queen to someone who's actually going to implement ideas, big ideas. We need now big ideas, including in water.
So let's hear the quote.
All right. So I'll give you the second quote, which was on Garrett Lewis' radio show. I spend more time in southern Arizona back in the years. He is the conservative voice of Arizona by far. He's moved up here because they tried to take him national, Trump did, and they wouldn't let him break his contract. So he moved up for the last election, 2024. So on his show, Garrett said, what is your plan? Here it is. Now it's election year. What's your plan for Arizona? The first thing he said coming out of his mouth was, first of all, make sure you don't tell the world that you don't have water, because that's a stinking lie.
Interesting.
Wouldn't you say that's a shocking statement?
It is.
Someone living in the desert.
Yes.
So previous week, I was sitting there, and when I'm home, I keep the War Room on in the background, and then the Charlie Kirk show comes on, and sadly, Charlie's gone, and his replacements aren't really with it, but they talked water with him. And so, what about water? And they were giggling about desal from, Sea of Cortez and bringing pipelines from the Mississippi River, which, by the way, those states are in a drought. Do you know that?
Yes.
And you think they're just going to give away that water?
We had a failed, I don't know if it's called failed, but I know Yuma was trying to do that desal project.
Desal, a lot of power. How much money is that going to cost to go desal, bring it up here, and all the other issues? So he says to them, first of all, quote, we have 600 to 700 million acre feet of water underground in Arizona. And he says that's her numbers, as in Hobbs and her Department of Water Resources. He's looked at the numbers, spoken with Gail, Griffin, and others like Alex Collin, and said their numbers are there. He continued, that's about 300 years supply at growth levels, including industry.
So why is everybody screaming that we're running out of water? It's
right? That's as
it's
dramatic as it
confusing.
gets.
It's very confusing if on one hand we're saying we have 300 years, on the other hand we're saying we can't sustain the level of water needs that we have here in Arizona. So
It's believe it or
what
not,
is the truth?
it's actually once it's explained, it's really simple. We have a monopoly system for water. It starts at the dams, that's
Mhm.
the Bureau of Reclamation. Then it goes down canals, which are federal and state. That's a monopoly. And then it comes to your municipal water authorities, who are also monopolies. You don't wake up one day and say, I don't like my water. I'm going to the AT&T water or the T-Mobile water. You have a water company and you have the bill, and they'll shove chloride in it and do whatever they feel like they're doing and raise your cost 12% a year. So that is the monopoly system of water. And they've taught us to believe that the only water out there is on that straw going back to those rivers.
Very interesting.
Yes, right?
Mhm.
And what do monopoly systems do? They
Control.
control, fantastic. They crowd out
Mhm.
competition and innovation. No, you have it here. And there are many people who benefit from that system. They'll say, oh, yes, we have groundwater components. And it was there in the slides last night. So I asked Mayor Borowski, what percent of your water for Scottsdale is from groundwater? Right. So the lawyer jumped in and helped her, and he gave a number of 14%. That's not even correct. He failed his own class. That is system globally, I believe, is 14%. I believe it's actually more for Scottsdale because they have more wells in their component. I want to say it's 34%.
Okay.
So Mr. Rhett Larson there, who was, again, preaching only the scarcity model, failed on that number. There is a groundwater component. So if we are dealing with supply and demand, we can't get more from the river. The river gives you what it's going to give. You can argue over how much California takes and
Mhm.
the upper basin and the
Right.
lower basin and all of those are
Yeah.
the only people who make money on that are the lawyers. And he laughed
Yes.
and giggled about that. Oh, lawyers, lawyers. We don't want to make all this money, but we're sitting in the middle all the time
Mhm.
fighting the water casino.
Yeah. And so as somebody who wants to be a legislator, that is the narrative that I've been hearing. We have to solve it with at the Colorado River level, and we have to negotiate, and we're worried that Arizona is being I don't want to use bad terms, but we're being taken advantage of. Let's put it that way in terms of this. But what I hear you saying is that we have solutions that don't require negotiating the Colorado River.
We have 6 to 700 million acre feet under our ground.
That's amazing.
That's a shocking number. And if you look at how much we use and everything, that lawyer who should be, he's called himself like kind of Dr. Fauci, like, I am the water science. I am the water law. He like said that,
Sure.
right? And then you question about that, right? And you say, how could that be? Now, those are just studies that are actually fairly high level, because think about this, Sandra. We have 9 million 9 million acres of state trust land.
Mhm.
How much do you think we truly understand the water resources beneath those?
Doesn't sound like we
Minimal.
do
And guess what? The
understand.
federal government owns how much? 21 million acres. Remember, we're not like Texas. Who can move fast because they have mostly private land. And private land,
Sure.
people can move all day long and drill. Easier to drill for an oil well in this state, if they had oil, than water. So
Interesting.
that is our system. 30 million acres that are not even practically accessed or truly understood. And guess what? That's where most of the water is.
So can you tell us what your company does and what is the name of your company and what?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not here to promote my company. There's another question we have to now dive into, if you may. All right. It's called the CAP and the Central Arizona Project.
Yes.
So I pointed out to Mayor Borowski and this ASU water lawyer, I said, you realize the biggest change in this Colorado River compact system that I just described, and specifically the Central Arizona Project portion, which is our
Right.
canal, occurred
Mhm.
last September, and it didn't even make headline news. And I looked at it. You know what it is? I am the science. I am the water guy, right? The water law guy. So this is what happened. During Trump's first term, and I don't know if it was related to him being in office or not, but the river was decreasing to a point of concern, right? And if the water can't even go over the dam, what's our backup
And that's
plan?
something that we can visibly see. So
It's
that
close
is
now. They're
frightening
calling it
when
day
when
zero,
we
and
see
right
the levels,
of the
and
water.
those of us that like to go and play in some of these rivers, we can visibly see
See that.
the water
There was
levels.
discussions with people on the side last night about we don't have the infrastructure. I said, we actually have many canal systems, and when they were built, because they are taxpayer-funded infrastructure,
Mhm.
guess what? If something drastic happened to the Colorado River, we could use those, right? They're called wheeling statutes. You can probably, from the Dutch, you can wheel water into them, right? Our own water. So during the first term of Trump, Arizona had public hearings and the usual lawsuits to say we can add water to the canal. And the only issue is the quality of that water. Obviously, you don't want to put sewage in the canal. But the Colorado River is not spring water. Right? It's got fish floating in it and birds pooping in it, right? You got to take it to
People
what?
playing in it.
A plant. You got everything. You got to take it where? To a facility that what? Blends it, treats it, and then gets it to the customer, right?
Right.
So obviously you don't want to put bad in water, but yeah, we have plenty of good water. So put the standard. It was finalized by us in Arizona and got to the Bureau of Reclamation, the top of that monopoly system, March of 2021. Trump was vanquished, and they sat on that during the Biden administration for 4 years.
Interesting.
So knowing about this, I came back last year and I said, hey, I contacted Lisa Atkins, who had been, I called her in the beginning to find out what this was all about. You're on the ballot. What's this cap? I was new to up here, 2.5 years I've lived here now. And I was like, what's this all about? For the posse, I was the water guy. I was like, I'll tell you who to vote for on this list.
Sure.
And she called me right away and was talking and happy. And then I called a second time to point some things out. And she suddenly realized this is a constituent actually has some knowledge of this. So I backed off. As usual in Arizona, it takes about 3 months to find out who won an election. So somewhere in February or something, I realized, she did win. I mean, it was hard to tell these things. So I then reach out to her and I say, well, why is it that we're not adding more water to our own canal if the fact is we're not getting enough water either via treaty and agreements or the river itself being low? Dodging and this and that. And finally, she puts me to a communications manager who takes his time replying, but he's a smart young communications guy out of Colorado with some biology, whatever. And he explains it very well and explains that there are wheeling statutes. And in fact, there's been years of progress trying to make it happen. And we did our part. I said, so you're pointing the finger at the Bureau of Reclamation? He said, you need to talk to the area manager. You think I called the area manager?
Yes.
What did he do? And tried to die. Well, there's lots of lawsuits. I said, no, I'm not sure you realize there's a new sheriff in town, right? So for 4 years, it sat at the Biden Bureau of Reclamation. Okay, so now we want to move it. Trump's water czar was placed inside the Department of Interior under Burgum, an oil guy. Then, you know this? You won't know. Many people don't know this. He appointed an Arizonan to lead the Colorado River Compact.
Interesting.
We are downstream. No one likes that.
Who was that?
The name I don't remember, and he was longtime water guy. I don't know if he's good or bad, whatever, but he put an Arizona in there because we have what? The upper basin, which would be Colorado and Wyoming and all that.
Yeah.
And then there's the lower basin.
Right.
Lower basin doesn't get to run that system. We're junior. They would not even let him go to confirmation, including Republicans. That's how political this is. So Trump says, that's how they play this game out there, right? So what does he do? Like a lot of his positions, he puts an interim, doesn't he? And that water czar moved from the Secretary Burgum's office to interim director of the Bureau of Reclamation. Again, it is the largest wholesaler water, maybe the Tennessee Valley Authority. More, I don't know, but it's certainly out west. It is the largest wholesaler because it owns the dams and the water comes off of there. He's there now. And things are happening. And guess what? As they start to make waves and start to push, these people don't even come tell someone like me who's inquiring about it. Bureau of Reclamation authorized that in September. Now, why would you go through that whole process to add water to your own canal if you don't have water?
Right. That's an excellent question. So this is a very interesting conversation because I had really simplified this concern in my own mind when I first started. And every time I talk to somebody that is a expert or somebody that is a self-proclaimed knowledgeable person in water, I get different responses, different answers. So the picture you're painting is starting to make more sense in my brain. I'm listening because the pieces are starting to fall
It's that
in
puzzle, and
place
they
for me.
love throwing
Right.
things at you that are completely up, and you don't
Yes.
get it, and they don't want you to figure it out, right?
So
I'm upstream. Then there's midstream moving it, and then there's downstream, which is retail, just like oil and gas. You got to find the oil. Drill, baby, drill.
right,
Then you got to move it through pipelines.
right.
While our gasoline prices are going out of sight because of our wonderful Middle East situation, guess what price is plummeting? They can't give it away fast enough. Natural gas. Because when they go down into these unconventional oil areas, they get a whole lot more gas out of it. I drove across Texas a month ago to spend time with my daughter, my new first granddaughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my eyes were just 3 hours across West Texas because they're flaring so much. They got to build what? The midstream pipelines to move it to users and to the ports to liquefy it, put it on massive boats to
So
India.
all that you're
Then
talking
there's
about,
downstream.
do we have the infrastructure in place here in Arizona to do all that? Because you're talking about all types of different things.
Right.
There's different points. And there's
it's
a
a
lot
big
of
scheme, right?
lot of moving
100%.
parts. Seems like there's a lot of decision makers too, or bottlenecks maybe.
Well, who are
But
some of the other monopolies created in Arizona?
energy.
APS. And they have water systems, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Canals. My goodness. Aren't they having a nice time? We think of them as just power, and all that's doing is going up, right? Until finally somebody got to Trump and said, hey, how about letting these power plants get their own energy somehow? Which, by the way, opens up a lot of ideas to people who've had great ideas on power that are now coming into that world. Remember, DJT, his own name company, is now switched to a company in fusion energy. Now, I don't know what he knows. I'm not an energy guy, but if that guy is putting his money into fusion energy, and then Bill Gates, who's trying to recover his reputation, is doing commercials on fusion energy as well, and on hydrogen energy. And one other thing I can't remember. Maybe us little people
We
ought
need
to
to pay
go.
attention.
Geez, I guess there's something afoot, right? They are reviving. I mean, what was it, 7 Mile Island, whatever it is, 3 Mile Island out in New York. The procedures. The EPA is now moving on nuclear, on hydrogen plants, on mining, right in Arizona. Get out of the
So it's
way.
my understanding,
Water,
Palo
we're
Verde,
not hearing it.
Palo Verde, is that the largest nuclear plant in the nation, or one of the largest? Because
I don't know the answer to that, but here's the amazing thing. Do you know most of that power goes to California and not us?
I'm not
Isn't
surprised.
that amazing? It's not, because why? They're going to pay the most for it because they're shutting down their nuclear plants.
Yes.
So, of course, if you're a power plant in business, you go highest bidder. Well,
Highest
we need to
bidder,
keep some for
absolutely.
those crazy desert rats, and we're going to get all this big stuff. Like 70% or something goes to California. How about we
Interesting.
just turn around and when they say this is why a lot of times they give on water because they realize Arizonans might wake up and go, okay, you won't give us our water. Maybe we're not going to
We're gonna
give
turn off
you
your
that
power.
energy. While they're not creating
Right.
enough of their own. I don't know. I was just up at South Lake Tahoe for a mini family reunion, and they were told by Nevada, 50,000 homes, mostly nice cabins, you are not going to have energy from us next year.
Interesting.
You think California is going to come in and give them their energy? Now, 1/3 of it is from solar in Nevada, and they'll get that. But 2/3 comes from the grid, and he said, we need it for chip plants and battery factories and all of that. That's a pretty shocking thing to happen to 50,000 homes up there. So things like that are happening right now in the energy and water. But we have, back to your question, the infrastructure. We have this amazing canal that cuts all through it. We have canal systems that by APS and I believe a third one. So we can locate water, some of it already existing in thousands of gallon a minute wells. Okay, like in Buckeye.
Yes.
It's funny. A lot of Arizonans, they're driving by the Arizona bypass out there, past the prison, and you look over and you see these pipes of water, and you're like, that must be from the Colorado, the cap, right? I mean, it's right next to the cap. Those are irrigation systems like the Arlington Irrigation District that have been there since the 1950s.
Interesting.
preceding the cap. Wait, they're doing 4,000 gallons a minute, 3,000 gallons a minute, tens of thousand gallons a minute out there from wells that are over 1,000 feet deep, okay, for 70 years now, 60
Wow.
years. Woo, woo, where'd the water go? They'll tell you it's
Why
fossil water.
why haven't I heard more of this?
Yes, they don't want you to know.
What is the reason why we keep hearing scarcity, scarcity? It's
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 perfect.
shocking to me.
And so there was the face on that stage last night of the Arizona Water Casino. So once they created this monopoly system, you now have the water rights kind of preceded that, okay? Guys who were first here, and you had your water and you have your grandfather water rights, or how all the scheme is set up. So that kind of preceded that, but it has gone on steroids. I call it the water casino. I work with plenty of Mormon ranchers and farmers up through Utah, heck, all the way up through Alberta, Canada. And I always tell them, you realize, especially in Utah, I like pointing it out, and Arizona, you realize the biggest casino is not in Las Vegas. Of course, they're against gambling, right? I said, it's the water casino, and it's more unethical and immoral. And they will kick the ground and go, yeah, you're right. It is. It's terrible. If you have the money and the lawyer and the lobbyist, you're going to get your water. The chip factories get their water, don't they? Those people get their water. You're on the straw. Take 12% more a year, put rocks in your yard, and toilet to tap it 3 or 4 more times. That's a system that's a control oligarchy, and it love the power they have.
So how do we fix this? How do we elect better people, number one, to be able to make these types of decisions? Because it seems like people are just going along to get along, and they're accepting business as usual. What do we have to do to get this in place to where we can live in abundance and not in fear and scarcity?
So I live in McCormick Ranch, which
Mhm.
puts me in LD
4.
4, and Scottsdale, meaning that's
Mhm.
my mayor,
Mhm.
Mayor Borowski,
Borowski.
last night. And so obviously you can tell I speak my mind.
Yes.
She obviously represents the milquetoast country club Republicans who are still playing patty cake in this state, while we go down and are run by literally Marxist educated governor, secretary of state, and attorney general.
And I'm gonna
And they think by
interject
being
for
nice,
just
unlike you, and being straight, and we're supposed to be about the age of common sense and
Yes.
straight talk. Right. And old McCain, they loved him. He was, remember, the Straight Talk Express. What happened to that? We need that back in Arizona.
Yes, and I'm gonna interject just for a second because we're having
I stepped on some toes there.
having a feisty conversation here. And I met Mark back in January, February, and we had this first conversation, right, through mutual friends, and it kind of blew my mind. So I've been excited to have him on. But I will say, Mark is I told him no holds barred, but these are his opinions. So I just want to interject.
Oh yes,
that, you
I'm
know,
happy. People ask me to run. I said, if you don't
I
like
am
Trump, you're
open-minded.
gonna have a hard time with me.
But I will say that these conversations need to be had, and
do.
it is very interesting that it's been kind of pushed under the rug, if you will, with truth. So let's talk.
This is the government. This
Yes,
is politics.
governance
This
and
is
accountability.
lawmaking now, right?
Yes,
You have a great
yes.
list. I mean, I don't. Was that?
Yes,
That's amazing. Super
yes.
job. So now we have to say, okay, Mark, who's he? He's a crazy guy. He's a business guy.
He's
Don't believe
crazy.
him. Oh my God, capitalist. He's just trying to get some money in his pocket, right? I don't advertise practically. I literally had how many 6 leads today? One up in Cordis Lake, one out in Missouri, one in what's that, Georgia. They're in a drought. Up in Alberta. I mean, it's water on the brain. I can tell you everywhere. Not to mention, I'm on 6 continents, so I've got flow in
Interesting.
from Paraguay as my base, South America.
So you have a little
in
bit of
Spain,
experience.
a
in
little
this
bit of
matter.
understanding this water deal, and that water's kind of everywhere. Okay, it's relatively the same geology because they say we used to be Pangea and then we broke apart and all that. So it's actually pretty similar. People say, you can't find water in my geology. I'm like, well, let me see. It's granite, and then there's sandstone, and there's limestone, and then that's kind of the standard everywhere. You can give it different names, okay, but there it is. It's down there, right? So now we're dealing with, okay, if that's the case, and obviously Governor Future
Future governor.
Biggs
Yeah.
is saying things like this, he's got to have a roadmap then, right? because they're going to be lawsuits left and right and trying to change any system like this that has so many interests. Well, who has written that roadmap and published it in a 4-part article recently? Your
Alex
friend.
Colladin.
There you go, Alex.
Alex
And
Colladin.
hey, you need kind of nerdy lawyers like him, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to go in front of the Supreme Court and you're going to have to know water law and the history of it. And he, in that 4 articles, uses all the Latin terms and all
Yes.
this stuff, but says the history and exactly what needs to be done. Biggest problem that we're facing now that you say, why and what's this going on, happened in the 1950s, and people forget that this was a Democrat-run place in the 50s called kind of Dixiecrats back then, okay? And they grabbed a hold of the California Democrat Party, and they went to Texas with LBJ, and they set up this water casino, all of them pretty well together, including New Mexico. So he understands that the critical decisions are made and how you would need to reverse them. I encourage everyone to read that 4-part article. Go talk to him. Go talk to your representatives. Say, is this real or not? Go talk to water lawyers. Go talk to the John Kyle Water Resources Center, whatever they're called, who that gentleman last night was a lawyer on. Talk to the old Goldwater Institute. Talk to, so get a mix of opinions here, okay? But you've got some people clearly now on the abundance paradigm.
Okay.
It's under our feet.
And that's why I invited you here, because I am running for District 4 State House of Representatives. And in order to understand a concern or an issue, I like to hear all voices, all opinions on this. And I've been hearing one sort of narrative, that scarcity narrative. And that's why I really wanted to have you on to shed some light on that. And I truly believe that we have to have these uncomfortable conversations in order to make true change. And is it going to be easy? No, because having worked in private industry and then for a short time in government, it is really difficult to move quickly when you're trying to make these types of decisions. From what you've described, there's so many players in this and stakeholders, that people that are not going to want to give up their piece of the pie, if you will.
Yes.
So
I'll give you an interesting example. Do you cover into desert, what's it called, north of the 101 up there?
that's the Legislative District 3.
That's 3.
That's where
So
Cullinan
that's
resides.
called.
That's
Okay, so
his country.
one of the first meetings I got dragged into by Judy and Doug and Veronica about 2 years ago was a water meeting, and they were announcing the 12% increases on rates, and of course there was a bit of an outcry. So they have a board right there, the people that are on that water board,
I'm just questioning, is that North Scottsdale, or are you talking Rio Verde at this point?
No, this is now North Scottsdale,
Yeah.
Desert, what's it called?
Desert Mountain.
Desert Ridge. Well, I forget all these names, but yeah, toward New River, but Phoenix side,
Okay.
right? And in there, north of 101. And so they had the woman come in from Department of Water Resources, or maybe Maricopa County Water
Okay.
Authority, make her wonderful PowerPoint and talking about, the distribution and the inventory. And on her side, it said 97% from Colorado River and 3% from groundwater.
Interesting.
And the obvious thing was supply and demand. Why don't you increase the 3%?
3%.
Right? And guess what I was doing? I said, okay, so here's what's happening. And I know the head of that committee there is an engineer, milking the system. He didn't like what I had to say. You would think they'd come back and say, that was pretty interesting. Ooh, could you make a presentation? What are you talking about? So I tell them this. I am being called by homeowners building their dream retirement home, $1.5 million up there, and they have a trunk line of water on their street. They have the power connection, and they were told, oh, you didn't get your request in by April of that year. You need to drill your own well. Can you imagine? You've already built your house. You got your septic field in the back. You basically have a front yard and a couple, space around on not even an acre, right? And you're being told, get your own water, drill. First time in your life you've ever thought about having to drill a well. Right. They give you no support though. Like, just call a driller. Okay. Driller's going to come in there and go, I got what to work with here, right? And most likely they're going to go out and tell you, go find a witcher.
What's a witcher?
Okay, so a dowsing is the English term.
Okay.
Water witching is sort of the American term, water divining. So
Okay.
this is an ancient art. It's
Yes.
funny that people don't realize that 3 out of 4 of our wells around the nation are located by old guys with forked sticks and swivel rods walking around going, "Oh." And then they walk and they putter and they follow a vein and they say, "Oh, there's a cross. Drill here."
Interesting.
And you're like, um, there? But my power's there, my barn's there. Good for you. The water's here.
Interesting.
Many drillers are also witch their own well because there are a lot of them are family businesses. They've handed it down over generation. I travel the world. Whether it's South Africa, Australia, Kurdistan, Iraq, you'd be amazed at the different little techniques, pendulums. And in Africa, they have a little bracelet and they'll hang a little pendulum. And, ooh, it's circling. We're the technology country in the technology
Yes.
age, and yet we're not using technology to locate our water, and we say there's none. Something's wrong with that
Interesting.
picture.
Yes.
So that poor person has to come to me. Fortunately, it's hard rock territory. My technologies specifically excel in hard rock because the basins are being overdrafted. They've been farmed. Everybody looks up for water. This is a good one you'll like, okay? They look up for water, rainwater, watershed, water table, aquifer. Those are what we learned from kindergarten, the
Right.
hydrological cycle, right? I look down for water because water is created in the earth, is the source water of our oceans. They've known this for 50, 60, 70 years, okay? And it comes up and out. It's actually created about 400 miles deep in what's called a hydrous zone, where you have the right, imagine the pressure. Have you ever scuba dived? I mean, we go
Yes.
like, I don't know, 300 feet, and we're like, right? Imagine going that many thousands of feet into our crest, let alone that deep. There's extraordinary actions going on down there. So now they have a term for it, and these are peer-reviewed scientists out of great universities, Northwestern and around the world. Mantle rain. Mantle rain. Okay, so we need what's his name back? Let's make a song about
Prince.
Prince, right? So it's raining out water. A lot of it's steam hits our fractured crust, cools and liquefies. We see that in the bottom of our oceans, for example. So we are a water planet, obviously, and it's actually creating that water. So now when you look down for water and understand how it's being made, whole new horizons open, especially amongst hard rock, fractured rock, basement rock aquifers. Do you think we have any rock in Arizona?
We have lots of rocks in Arizona. We are not short of rocks.
Lots of rocks in the head too, but we're trying to break through that, right?
Yeah.
And so my science is not hydrogeology, which is sort of hydro and geology. Geology is study of the earth, rocks, and then hydro, water, right? It's an appendage. I say geologists, yep, take offense, guys, have rocks in their head, and water is secondary to them. I practice geohydrology,
Okay.
like geophysics, geochemistry. We're studying the different waters of our Earth and our planet, and there's massive literature on that using remote sensing and satellites. I mean, NASA can tell you the composition of stars we're never going to read. They know the composition. Do you think they don't know the composition of our planet? But NASA, you know what NASA stands for? Never a straight answer.
You're going to get me in trouble
Oh,
today.
yes, ma'am. Bring it on. I haven't even gone after ASU and Michael Crow. Oh,
So back to finding solutions, right? You mentioned Gail. Is it Griffith or Griffin?
Gail,
She's
you
in the
got me. Griffin.
legislature.
Griffith or Griffin?
She's
You're right.
in-
Griffin.
we'll have to-
Gail Griffin, representative, Southeast Arizona, 20-some years, Cochise County. And they say, nothing happens in water in Arizona without. You've heard.
I've heard that, yes.
So
I've not
here's
had the
something
pleasure of
shock-
meeting her yet, but
Well, here's something shocking and disappointing that happened there. So I met her also 2 years ago. Thanks again to Judy and Doug, who have very close through their son relationship with Hoffman. Jake Hoffman.
okay.
And it was very interesting to see a senator get very scared about water. I mean, you're here in Arizona
Scared in
too.
what way?
He didn't want to talk to me about it.
Okay.
Oh, you need to talk to Gail. Oh, yeah, I'm pushing off. Wait, he's Senate and she's House, right? And so, like, at least he should have pushed us to somebody in the Senate that cares about water, right? But it's Gail. Okay, fine, it's Gail. Okay, and she's pro farmer, pro rancher, and all that from Cochise County.
Because she supports the rural Arizona.
Well, then
I mean,
tell
we all support
we all
all of
do.
Arizona, but that's where her
Oh, no, I
constituency
disagree with
is,
that.
right?
These people up here have no clue. They don't even travel to southern Arizona. They don't go out to rural. Many, I'm sorry. I'm in Scottsdale, so it's a
But
very
where she
elite
li
crowd
what
that
I'm
has no
trying to
clue.
say is where she lives is very rural Arizona.
Yes,
Okay.
it's rural down there. When you drive an hour from Phoenix, it's pretty rural in a hurry in this state.
Agreed.
It's 90 whatever percent rural, which by means there's a lot of land. Again, 30 million of it under state ownership or federal ownership that we're doing nothing about. You can get permits to go and put cows on there and maybe drill some wells on state land and BLM land, right? But it's really it's stuffed up, that process. So that changes are coming there too, but they haven't quite figured it out yet. But I think now with Biggs talking that way, he has. So she comes in. I talked to her. She's in actual agreement that there's a lot of water. She's showing me studies with, ISOs on it and everything. And I say, I do a lot of work in even own land desert land down in your county. Okay. My parents retired in southern Arizona in early 90s and bought up some tax sale lands down there, land sold to Midwesterners, oceanfront property in Arizona. And finally the kids get it and go, why do we own this
George
desert?
Strait made a song about that.
Why do we own this? And they just stop paying the taxes. You get pretty cheap land out there nowadays still. Okay. So anyway, I showed her the work I was doing out there for the hated dairy that came up last night. So I told her something. You're going to like this. I said, there's an old yarn by a guy whose nickname is the Oracle of Omaha, right? His name is Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, very successful, right? And he says, if you're playing poker and you don't know who the patsy is at the table, it's you. And I told her, when it comes to water in Arizona, Arizonans are the patsy at their own table, because the nut farmers out in California to Florida and everywhere in between know there's water here. The hated dairy, the fourth largest in the country, second largest in Minnesota, knows there's water in Cochise County.
Interesting.
They have tens of thousands of acres. The Emiratis and Saudis, who everybody said,
The Arabian horses.
they're stealing our water. No, they're not stealing it. They did some really sweetheart deals with some real good Arizona lawyers who said, yeah, we can get you some land, real good deal. You don't think anyone would take a deal? Sorry, it's not the Saudis and Emiratis who did the deal. It was Arizona lawyers, okay? So they come in there and say, great deal, absolutely. Water's there, which is La Paz County out that way, okay? Huge amounts of water under that county alone. And it ain't coming from the Colorado River, okay? So they go out there and they are growing alfalfa, right? For their dairy industry and their beautiful Arabian horses. Right? That Scottsdale used to enjoy that part of that community. Maybe they still do parts of it. They are multi-million-dollar horses, and that's a massive equestrian industry. So that's all they're doing it. Now, I have a new partner in Catalonia, Spain. They are now taking that business from Arizona. Yeah, they got a lot of water, and they have great, again, it can be somewhat more saline, which is the alfalfa doesn't mind it because it cleans it out, and they're increasing there, okay? But they're here in Arizona, they're in California, they're up in Washington State doing that. Guess what? We told them, you're out, I think, you're off the state land, so you and I now don't get tax money from that, or someone else is going to go do the farming so we get the tax money. How does that help the water if you're saying there's no water there, right? So yeah, it's all political nonsense. And they love dragging people into that. Golf courses. How can we have all these golf courses in the desert? This is crazy. People are out of their mind. You know what? I had a former Arizona golf superintendent call me from Maryland. He's at a very high-end, exclusive country club there. And he's going, it rains here 3 times a week. We're trying to go a well because we're also having little drought issues. We can't get water. I was out there in Phoenix, and we had tons of water from water wells, okay? most of the golf courses are not getting the river. People are getting that water, and farming, of course, gets water.
Isn't that reclaimed water?
And they do a lot of the reclaimed water.
Mhm.
Exactly. They'll take that, right, and put that on their golf courses as well, right? So they'll have water wells and they'll do reclaim, and they'll reclaim their own water, right?
Sure.
So that's that. And guess what? They're that much. Even the farming is that much compared to what? People and all of our industrial uses is the large.
Yes.
You're going to take food away because you see that and say they use so much per acre. It's horrible. We need to eat bugs, right? All that. Those are crazy people because if you look at the numbers, and even the lawyer last night pointed that out gently to people, like, you're arguing over, like, we need food. It goes into what? Our dairy. It goes into our beef. It goes into many things we eat, that alfalfa. What are you doing, right? So even he pointed that out. So that is a system there that is so, what do you wanna say, fogged over,
Mhm.
especially by lawyers. Like I say, easier to drill an oil well in many places than drill a water well because it's not the same mineral rights.
Interesting.
It's water law. Wicked.
Wow.
Oh, it's wicked.
Well,
Have Alex on to talk about.
oh, I would love to have Alex on. He's busy running for Secretary of State.
Oh, you should wanna talk to people.
Yes, he
I'll
should.
tell you what his answer was because I challenged something last night. I'll let you know if I don't know if we're gonna break or you want me to tell
No,
you.
go ahead.
So, at the end of the meeting, I went back up and I had another question round where,
Sure.
again, I repeated, after standing up and calling them out BS, I repeated it and I said, why are you on this scarcity paradigm?" Looking really at Mayor
Mhm.
Borowski, right? And questioning him. And then I mentioned the cap issue. And I said, so we can add water to the canal. There are solutions you're not even including in your nice PowerPoint here, okay? Right? That you apparently are not aware of, and you're, Mr. Water Law. So afterwards, I cornered Mr. Rhett Larson, professor of ASU, and I said, "Great, Mark Burr." He was a little shy, he was a little scared, and I said, "Hey, it's okay. I will challenge you to a debate." Okay, and
Oh,
he said, "Well, immediately. I don't know
that
how.
sounds
That's very hard to
fascinating.
schedule. That I don't know when I would do that. Hey, this is a very amazing, busy guy who couldn't."
Right.
I said, "No, no, no. It'll be with me and Alex Culloden and Representative Andy Biggs running for governor. You can now see what? Yeah." And I said, you can have yourself and the Arizona State University Sustainability Department. Nice little jab there to the scaremongers of scarcity, of course, and everything else, and of course Hobbs, who would never show up, and whoever you want, to speak on water. And all he said was, "Well, I don't know how they would have time for that. I mean, to schedule that."
Well, if
That
it's
was his
if
only
it's
concern,
one
was
of the
scheduling.
most important concerns in Arizona, how would you not make time for something like that?
I should find Alex's email and response because I wrote him when I got home and
Yep.
I copied the lawyer. I said, by the way, Alex, and he had done some lawyering for me about a year ago on an issue. And so I had his law practice email, and so I don't
Sure.
bug him much, but I point things out to him that he likes to take credit a lot of stuff in the Freedom Caucus, and it's true.
Yes.
For what Big said, he said, we've been on him. We at the Freedom Caucus have been on him to understand this. So there are many proponents inside there
Okay.
who do get that. And so I said, hey, I challenged him to a debate. I said, we'll hold it at ASU, but we'll hold it at my old alma mater, which Thunderbird closed, sadly, that campus, and
Okay.
now moved, and they built a beautiful new building. Okay, and it's right. He goes, oh, it's right
That
across.
Thunderbird School of Management.
That's
from
it.
ASU.
Oh, it's right across from the law school. He kind of got excited. I said, well, yeah, great. You know where it is. So let's do that. I mean, right? Just please,
Can
let me
I
talk
be a
to the
fly on the wall in that? Could I come?
He wrote,
Would
said,
you
how
invite
fun
me?
would that be?
That would be a lot of fun.
He's like, basically, it is an issue. And
Mhm.
you know what? Sometimes it's good to have real contention. It gets
Yeah.
people interested in thinking about it and alternatives they haven't heard about. So
Yes, 'cause
he wrote that back.
That's the key.
Yeah,
That's
that was
important.
12 hours, how many hours ago?
Right.
And the good lawyer is too busy to respond. So
Yes, I think that is why I wanna have these types of discussions because I am on a school board, and typically on a school board, it is get along to go along, and I tend to ask very provocative questions, but questions grounded in truth and facts
facts.
and data and not hypotheticals, so it's very interesting, and you had indicated that there was an engineer that would and so I am my husband, I'm married to he's an executive, but his background is mathematics and electrical engineering, and every time I try to do a discussion with him or an argument that is based in, like, my own head, he gets back to the facts, so it really surprises me that a quote, unquote, "engineer" would not wanna talk about facts and reality metrics and data.
So when you have Douglas, Arizona, let's say, many small towns around Arizona, their wells are going dry or they are expanding and they need a new well.
Yes.
They always go, I need $1.5 million. They go to
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah.
And because it's going to people and you have to do all this stuff and you have all these people layering the cake, we need this, we need
Hmm.
that, we need this, we need that. The cost of a well that we could do for $150,000 just became 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, engineers, I say it all the time. There's not a job that can be done for $1 million that an engineer won't find a way to do for $10 million or 100 million.
That's funny. Well, and a lot of the concerns and issues that we're facing in Arizona come down to those things. It's either money, big business, right? And power. So, and I don't mean the electric power grid. And so that's some of the things that we're having to deal with. There's a lot of egos that we have to contend with, and common sense people, people that are coming up through the ranks that want to be in support of the people that represent them. Some of us don't have those big egos, but we're willing to ask those questions and stand firm. And so I think that's where we're at here.
Absolutely.
That we need to elect better people. We need to elect people that have gumption and are not afraid to ask these questions and not. I admit this is all very new information for me, but I'm trying to absorb it and I'm trying to hear and listen because I want to do the right thing for Arizona. I wanna help solve problems, not just get along to go along.
There you go.
So
And we now actually have an amazing circumstance where the federal government now is extraordinarily open and positive. They're selling BLM, checkerboard BLM lands in Utah so that the people can grow outward instead of up,
mhm,
right? You have these little checkerboards and yet their people are living around them in the neighborhoods. Why is BLM I need to own and sit on that land? They're selling it off. They're doing trades. Let's move over here. It's extraordinary that regard. EPA and NEPA needs to get figured out. They're the ones who, if you have to do a well, I did a well up in the Arizona Strip. Have you
mhm.
ever heard that term, the Arizona Strip?
No, I have
We
not.
know the Las Vegas Strip. The Arizona
Yes.
Strip is the whole massive area of land north of the Grand Canyon
Okay.
up there of
That's
Arizona.
beautiful, Arizona. I love that
There's no one
area
there. There's no
immensely.
town. No one lives there.
The well,
The Arizona
I was
Strip. Yeah.
thinking North Rim. You're
Yeah,
talking
North
about
Rim, that whole
North.
area that goes we have a
Yes.
strangely drawn lines
Yes.
around America, right? Up
Mhm.
here. So all of the ranchers out of
Yes.
southern, Utah, St. George, Hurricane, all that
Yep.
come down there and ranch, right? And the only thing Arizona does every so often, Democrat presidents, is give that land away, right? To what? The federal government. They create new multi-million acre, monuments. And you go out there and go, "Where's the monument?" You wanna protect that mountain? Wonderful. So Trump was the first ever maybe to cut back, right, in his first term, those monuments that were created as, of course, Obama ran out the door. Bear's ears and a couple of them. It never happened. One that was under the sea and said that's crazy because they wanna stop seabed drilling and different things, okay? He said, "Way back, we'll protect this. The rest of it, you can still do your permittees." So permittees are who goes out on the BLM lands and I believe state trust lands in Arizona. Ranchers, the guys who get our beef, okay? And they get permits to do that. They have to work real hard if they want to get a well, and it's very restrictive based on scarcity model.
Got it.
But think of all that land. We have a friend of the federal government. We have nothing but a veto queen in the governor's
But we
office.
have
But we
elections
now
coming
have
up.
elections coming,
Yes.
and we need to get
Change is
serious
coming.
because Big Think is ready. Big Think is possible now, like you haven't seen. Okay, they're calling
Great.
the big guys we're supposed to be amazed at. They're saying our economy is going to go 10 times in 10 years. I don't believe but these guys are watching what's happening.
Okay.
10 times 10 years. That's incredible growth rate, right? Hang on, kids. I'm very optimistic for my 5 kids because
Great.
they ain't woke, all right, and they were hardworking and they got jobs. And I tell you what, I tell them, relax. You had your best years of your life kind of messed up in that whole COVID. You were in high school or
Yes.
college,
Yes.
but you know what? You have a bright
The
future
best
because
is yet to come.
it's yet to come.
I like it. Well, we're gonna wrap up today with this was a fun conversation, and I'm just fascinated with the amount of knowledge in your brain and just how you can just talk and weave this information all together. So I'm gonna give you the last word before we close out and just bring it back to how do we solve this problem? I know it's a lot. We've talked about it, but what's the first step? How do we once we get past the primaries and the general, how do we roll up our sleeves and get to work and really solve these concerns?
At the end of the day, Gail Griffin did put forward a number of, and obviously the House put forward a number of good water bills. I want to say it was last year, and they've probably been revisited this year. They were all vetoed. They
Okay.
were definitely questioning this whole thing about the scarcity model, and we need to
Sure.
look at this and that. There's another group out there that I need to find out, and I'll share with you. It's a group that's upset about how the state trust lands are managed or mismanaged, and you may know
Sure.
some of those folks. They would be quite interested because when we do sell off that land, it's supposed to go towards schools and so forth, but they're selling it off at without even knowing the water value underneath, which could be double the price of
Right.
literally. I found water for a project west on Buckeye out there on the bypass crossing the prison. They want to do a big RV park, and we're stumbling around for years. They got project water that went from, let's say it was $1 million to $10 million the next day. Guess what? I don't think they're doing our RV park anymore. They got a lot of people coming in there to do solar and chip factories and whatever, right?
Right.
Because they now have the water proven in the 100-year famous 100-year certificate
Sure.
that Hobbs canceled and just lost that at the Supreme Court. So it took a long time to get Supreme Court, but they said, no, that was wrong. You cannot just change statutes at the government level that have already been put in place. Again, Alex can talk about that, but that took too long. But now the developers are breathing again. Okay. So you guys in the House and Senate, if you can control them, which I think you will, and have our own governor and a very, very friendly federal government for the first time in a long time, the sky's the limit on what you
Great.
can do.
Well, that's wonderful. So I just want to thank my guest today, Mark Burr, because that's what it's about. We want hope and a future for I have a 19-year-old son, and I want him to be able to thrive, and it sounds like there is hope here, but we just have to make some better decisions. We have to elect better people to all levels of government from school board on up to president,
Okay?
and just hold our elected officials accountable. And that includes me because I'm elected on the school board, and I welcome people that question me, ask questions, try to get things resolved. And so that's what it's about because we are a constitutional republic. And the Democrats get upset when I say that. They're like, no, it's a democracy. I'm like, well,
No, they're democratic
we're a
principles
representative
inside of
republic.
a
Right, and we
constitutional
represent
republic.
you, we represent your voice. So I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So that was a fun discussion. Normally we go about 30 minutes, but he was on a roll. So we went an hour today. And so I just want to thank my guest, Mark, for coming on and to shining light in the darkness on all things water. And I do want to encourage people that are listening to this to do your own research because we have been told time and time again that water is scarce and the sky is falling. We've got to fix this. We've got to fix this. Well, it sounds like there are some options and lots of different solutions. And we do have, I think Mark said 300 years of water.
Longer than we've been a country,
Yes.
250 years. How long have we been a state?
Longer
100
than what
and yeah,
yes,
we've got
yes.
plenty.
So I just want to thank everybody. I'm Sandra Christensen, and I'm going to sign off right now. And this is the Voice of the People live stream. So thanks for coming on today.